The road through the Big Ten is never easy, but for the Indiana Hoosiers, there may not be a more demanding 2 week stretch anywhere on the 2026 schedule than the one breaking down tonight. Hello again, everybody. I'm the coach Shannon Griffith. Welcome to Hoosier Tailgate on the Hoosier.com. We appreciate you coming and being with us here tonight. Couple of things. If you could hit that subscribe and notification bell, like, and on YouTube, we greatly appreciate it. The Hoosier.com, as well as Hoosier Football Tailgate, as anything else. If you have any questions tonight, we wish to put that into the chat in the chat box. We'll try to get to it as well. But overall, just happy that you are here with us as we get ready for what is coming up, a busy, busy time as we had the Big Ten media games today. Big Ten media games, I guess it was a game. The final days of the Big Ten media days, and it's going to be an interesting night as we'll get to some of the things that were said at the media days today. Coach Sig did not disappoint, but as you know, like I said, there's a 2 week stretch that Indiana will face in 2026. And we're going to break that down tonight, starting with October 17th game versus the Ohio State Buckeyes as they come to Memorial Stadium, as Indiana and Ohio State will have a meaningful game October the 17th right here in Memorial Stadium. Then 7 days later, Indiana travels to the Big House, Ann Arbor, to take on the Michigan Wolverines, which would be another back-to-back two big-time programs in the Big Ten, taking on Kyle Whittingham's first year there at Michigan. And that will be another big game for the Hoosiers. Now, after that game, they will get a bye before they come back home for October 31st when they come home to face the Minnesota Gophers and PJ Fleck come to town, a game that you know that those are going to be three physical opponents and two matchups against Ohio State and Michigan that could ultimately determine whether Indiana is simply having another good season or whether this program is truly ready to compete for another Big Ten championship and the return to the college football playoffs. It's going to be that. But, again, welcome to season 4 of the Hoosier Tailgate and part 3 of our 2026 Indiana football schedule preview. Tonight, we move into the portion of the schedule where there is nowhere to hide. And by mid-October, the new faces will no longer be new. The transfer portal conditions will have been tested. The depth chart will have taken shape. Josh Hoover will have experienced the pressure of leading this Coach Signetti offense. And Indiana's rebuilt roster will have to have time to establish an identity, and that's what they'll have to do during those first 3-4 weeks of the season, because they will, prior to playing Ohio State, have the game against Northwestern there in Memorial Stadium before they hit this stretch where it's going to be pretty darn hard ball games for Indiana. This is when Ohio State arrives in Bloomington. Buckeyes will bring that elite talent, tremendous speed, and the kind of depth that forces you to play winning football on every snap. Indiana will not be able to survive negative plays, missed opportunities, or breakdowns in the kicking game. The Hoosiers will have to protect the football, control the line of scrimmage, and find a way to keep the Ohio State Buckeyes' explosive playability under control. Julian Sayin is a quarterback that is back another year of experience, so you can imagine his overall feeling in this offense, even though they got a new coordinator, Arthur Smith, a lot of NFL experience coming in to run the show there. But Julian Sayin is a smart, well-prepared quarterback. And again, this game is also about something larger. It's an opportunity for Indiana to show Memorial Stadium can be one of the most difficult places to play in the Big Ten, and that the Hoosiers are no longer simply hoping to compete with the conference traditional powers. They are there to win championships year after year. Then after that, heading up to Ann Arbor to the Michigan Wolverines, and that presents a completely different challenge as Michigan wants to make the game physical. Kyle Whittingham is about pound and ground with good, solid defense and behind it. It wants to test your patience, challenge your toughness, and force you to win in the fourth quarter. Indy will have to handle the environment, withstand that early momentum, and remain disciplined when that game becomes uncomfortable. They did that very well last year, winning four games in the fourth quarter, 5 games in the fourth quarter last season, and 4 of them were on the road. These are the type of games in which championship teams reveal themselves. Can Indiana take a punch and respond? Can the Hoosiers win everything when everything does not go according to plan? Can they execute in the red zone? Can they convert on third down and finish the game when the margin of error becomes almost non-existent? The Ohio State and Michigan are not just 2 more games on the schedule. They are the measuring stick games. They could shape Indiana's place in the Big Ten race, influence the national perception of the program, and carry enormous college football playoff implications. But the Indiana Hoosiers cannot allow the emotion of those 2 games and 2 showdowns linger, because Minnesota, after the bye, will come into Bloomington, and PJ Fleck has always that ability to get his teams ready to play in late October, really good football in that stretch. So again, it's 3 games, 2 of which are against some of the 2 top programs in the Big Ten, and it will be the deciding factor shaping up to see if Indiana is going to be a contender for the Big Ten championship again, and more importantly, a chance to be in the college football playoffs. We're going to also recap Big Ten Media Days and discuss the message delivered by Coach Cignetti, Indiana's representatives in Chicago. Indiana is no longer into the season as an unknown story. Expectations have changed, and attention has increased, and every opponent will be prepared to give the Hoosiers its best shot. That's the price of becoming relevant. That is the challenge of sustaining success, and that what makes the stretch schedule so important. Ohio State at home, Michigan on the road, Minnesota back in Bloomington after a bye week. 3 Saturdays that could define Indiana's season. So buckle up, Hoosier fans. It's time to continue that journey through the 2026 schedule. As I said earlier, this is a stretch where Indiana will be in the midst of the Big Ten race, as it will be coming their second game, and it's going to catapult them into the bigger part of the year. But Indiana is going to be in a situation where they got to be playing their best ball come October 17th. Yeah, good to see you tonight there, Tim, as well. Thank you for being. Jason, appreciate you stopping by as always. And then David, the SEC makes a deal about having the extra P4 game. What's the difference for players as far as a wear and tear when they play against an easy non-conference team versus a regular Big Ten team? Well, David, here's what I would say. The SEC does not have a monopoly on how much a team is, the wear and tear of a season. The wear and tear of the SEC and the Big Ten, they're all beat up at that end point of the year. And again, that is just something that you're not going to solve the answer, because it is subjective. But I'll tell you this, and if anybody knows this, I don't care if it's a high school team or pro team, when you get to the latter part of the season, you're going to be beat up. Coach Cignetti said it today the best. That's why you've got to have depth, because you're going to have to play a backup, because the number 1 guy is sitting on the sidelines injured. And Indiana had to do that last year. Got to adapt, adjust, and improvise in that situation. Jason, it's going to be nice when Ohio State doesn't pack Ohio Memorial Stadium, a huge home crowd. Well, that is true, because that is not something that has happened in the past, as the Buckeye fans do travel well. And if you give them an inch, they'll take it a mile and make it a home game for them. And then David, again, bless an even coach season getting closer. Go Hoosiers. Appreciate you stopping by again as we get started here this evening with Indiana football. and the schedule, part 3 of our 4-part series. Again, this is a situation where we're getting to that point where, you know, everything is wrapped up now. The talking season is over. Everybody is full throttle into the start of camp, which will happen next week. Indiana, I do believe, I've got their practice schedule, but I don't know where I put it. I do believe they will be on the field for the first time August the 5th. So everybody can be in a position, if that's what they want to be at, uh, to potentially observe if they ever open it up. And he has not in the past. But Indiana took center stage today. Uh, Kurt Signetti, again, does not disappoint in his message. It was pretty simple. And like he said, what he said 8 years ago is going to be the same thing he said in camp. We'll say in camp when it starts here in a couple days, are pretty darn close to it. Again, this is a guy that's process oriented. What he does has been tested through time, and that's how he approaches everything with this ball game, or the ball game. Josh Hoover expectations. Again, I don't think there's anybody in the country that's facing the replacing a Heisman Trophy winner and a national championship team as at the quarterback position than Josh Hoover. And I do think Signetti, by watching him today, is pretty darn excited about what he has there at the quarterback position. Indiana, again, I've said this before, they are no longer the hunter. They are the defending national champions, and they are going to be the hunted by the vast majority of the country who plays them this year. Again, Carter Smith was there. We got, if you want to get a full videos and breakdowns, head to thehoosier.com. They have it there, and you can get the divided out. We'll show some of it here in a second because Tyreek Tucker was there, Isaiah Jones, Carter Smith. Again, 3 top tier guys that are going to have a big, big part of this team with everything that you can imagine those kids burdening, because they are the leaders. No more Aiden Fisher. There's no more Mendoza. There's no Surratt and Coop. This is time for the new group to step forward, and we're going to find out who those guys are. But again, that has been pretty much the point of today, is the start of the talking season being over for everyone. And now it's time to put up or shut up. Here is, let's see if I can get the right one here. This is Sig on one of his questions.
It's me. Well, I mean, it's different people. So it's going to be a little bit of a different team, but it's going to be more same than different. I mean, all of our teams have been successful because they're more similar than different, right? We don't turn it over. We play smart. All 3 phases play off each other. We stop the run. We run the ball. We're good in the red area touchdown percentage, 3rd and 4th down percentage. And those are things I want to continue to do. The faces just change a little bit. And the tweaks, probably the average fan doesn't notice the tweaks, to be honest with you, which were things that we do that we think will give our players the best chance schematically. But the schematic part of it is really overrated. Blocking, tackling, running, throwing, and catching is the key to the drill. So, we got to create the identity, the mindset, the relentlessness, the resiliency, and when we got 17 new transfers, which is about par for the course across college football right now, and further indoctrinate them into how we do things.
Coach Signetti there at Big Ten Media Days, as well as the other coaches through the conference. Again, Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State. Penn State was yesterday, as was Oregon. But today with Ohio State and Michigan, you could tell with Ohio State, they are a very confident bunch. They have a ton of talent coming back on both sides of the ball. You can see the edge to Ryan Day today, I thought. And I do think that Julian Sain has that same edge. It's a team that's on that that because of what happened last year, losing in the Big Ten championship and then losing to Miami in the college football playoffs, they are a team that's got to come and prove a lot to their fans. As you know, Ryan Day, when you're the head coach at Ohio State, it's national championships or bust. And that's what they'll be facing. But he's got a talented group coming back. And when you look up at Michigan and Kyle Whittingham, when we get back into all the breakdowns here in a second, you could tell that he feels pretty confident heading into this year with what he's brought in and constructed as a staff when it all comes to that aspect of things. Again, Tony Petitti, talking about the 2014 playoff. It's still a very prominent feeling in the Big Ten. That's what they want. And again, we're going to find out. But if that would happen, if they would get that 2014 playoff, they would eliminate the Big Ten championship game because they probably would be, forced to, because you'd have more teams in it. And his example or his explanation as to why 24 teams, he wants to keep as many teams alive deep into the season that creates the crowds, the buzz, and everything that you would expect on getting multiple teams into the playoffs in that respect. But again, Greg Sankey still very against that. They want the 16 team thing, and that's not going to happen. When you talk about the Big Ten and the SEC, it's still there. It's a natural rivalry. It has become who says what when. When Sig made the final comments today, as he was interviewed on the main stage, the Twitter world lit up, and it was 95 to 99% SEC fans that were just livid and how Sig explained how they do things in the Midwest. We'll get to that here in a second as well. But, this isn't really about 12 teams. It's really not about 24 teams. It's about who controls kind of the future of college football when you think about it. It's one of those things right now, is trying to get the guardrails, trying to get some things in line. The Protect College Sports Act, I don't know where that is. It's going to have a long time to it looked like it's a long shot to get through anything with the Senate as we head into this season with it. When you look at it, first-year head coaches are everywhere. The Big Ten is going to become a conference of really new beginnings when you think about it. Kyle Whittingham at Michigan, Matt Campbell at Penn State, Pat Fitzgerald at Michigan State. Those three names right there leading, really good tradition-rich programs. You can tell that they are going to be strengthened by who they brought in. And I mean, you look at Penn State, for instance, their coaching search for a head coach was an utter debacle all the way up until they found a way to convince Matt Campbell to leave Iowa State at the last minute and ultimately flip the storyline as he became the head coach at Penn State. And all of a sudden, what was a debacle went into a big time hire that I do believe that Campbell will flip Penn State and get them back into where they're accustomed to being as one of the top teams in the Big Ten when you think about it. Fitzgerald, I like the hire there, but again, when you think about it, and Sig made this point today, and I agree wholeheartedly, continuity matters in today's college football. The Big Ten has some enormous brands adjusting to completely new leadership. Then the tieback, Indy has one of the most established coaching situation in the conference and the country as Sig enters year 3 as the head coach at Indiana with the same staff pretty much around him that has been with him forever in that respect. I tell you, it's pretty remarkable when you think about the guys that are with him. It's like they're like riding a bike, and then they get off and jump back on it, and it's smooth sailing from there when you think about it. Brett Bielema started the kind of the war of words as he fired the first shot across the bow when he was up, and basically saying that the SEC continues to live in 2005 and still thinking the conference is the best in the country and so forth and so on. So he kind of made that comment, which got the Twitter world riled up again because of, his time at Arkansas. But he kind of said they still want to live in 2005. And again, I'm going to see if I can find the Signetti clip that basically, he kind of said today, here in a second, but let's see about this one that from his clips today.
Your job as a head coach and the assistants is to equip your roster, make it as strong as possible with adequate depth at every position throughout the team. When you play that many games, you're going to get some guys dinged and injured. Things happen. Next man up mentality. The Big Ten is the best league in football. And a lot of really good football teams. It's hard to win on the road. Very physical football teams, very well coached. It definitely prepares you for the playoffs. There's no doubt about it. The numbers speak for themselves. I mean, we don't run a hype machine up here in the Midwest. We believe everything's earned, not given. And when we fall short, we say we fell short. We don't cry a river, whine, and complain. All right? And that's why we're the best.
As you can see there, the man, the myth, the legend known as Curt Signetti got the final word in on today's main stage with that comment there about the Big Ten in the Midwest doesn't need a hype machine. They don't need things given to them unless it's earned. And when they fall short, they don't sit around, stew and fret and cry about it. That's how things run in the Midwest and the Big Ten. And Sig says, and that's why the Big Ten is the best conference in the country. As you guys can imagine, that set off a complete and utter Twitter world firing back. I'm waiting to see what our buddy at ESPN, Mr. Paul Feinbaum, has to say about those comments. Haven't seen anything out yet, but you can bet he's going to have a firing back to Sig on that one, as he did with Bielema. And so we'll find out more tomorrow when we see what he has to say. Then as you look at it from this perspective as well, the new reality for the Indiana Hoosiers is they're not sneaking up on anyone. When you get respect, it changes everything. When you go out and earn what Indiana did last year, 16-0, national champs, Big Ten champs, beat Ohio State, beat Oregon twice, beat Miami in their own backyard. That right there is a recipe to get a lot of respect. And like I said, they are going to be the hunted this year. Again, everything centered around the national aspect of Media Day was Ohio State, Oregon, and Indiana. The ironic thing, Ohio State and Oregon are picked ahead of Indiana when the Big Ten media voted to see who would win the Big Ten this year between Ohio State and Oregon. I thought that was a little bit of a diss because Indiana, 16-0, if you want to be the man, you got to beat the man, and then no one's beat them yet. But Ohio State take enough from them. But Indiana is no longer viewed as a Cinderella, a surprise, a fluke, however you want to look at it. Again, the biggest thing that the national writers have done repeatedly is frame the biggest question as, can Indiana repeat it? Can they repeat what they did a year ago this year? And last year, Indiana was playing with house money. This year, the Hoosiers are defending something tied directly into tonight's topic. And it brings us to tonight's show. If Indiana wants to defend the Big Ten championship and college football playoff title, It starts with surviving the toughest 3-game stretch on the schedule when you look at Ohio State, Michigan, and even Minnesota because of where they're positioned in that respect. So, again, it's one of those things that Indiana is going to be faced with when it comes to tonight's biggest question with Indiana is when you start talking the first game coming up, which is the Ohio State Buckeyes. And again, a team that is going to be coming to Memorial Stadium with a loaded roster. Julian Sand, Jeremiah Smith, who I think both of those two will be talked in the hype for the Heisman. Julian Sand was a really good quarterback a year ago. Jeremiah Smith has been that way for 2 years. And then you look at Sonny Styles on that defense. Again, Ohio State with Arthur Smith as the offensive coordinator, Patricia as the defensive coordinator. You got two former NFL head coaches and coordinators now at Ohio State running the offense and defense for Ryan Day. And again, when you get people with knowledge and can take what they know, put it into action, they're going to be really good at what they do at Ohio State. Let's see here. Coach, we have some great matchups this year. I think IU and Oregon have the toughest conference schedule. Ohio State has at IU, at USC versus Oregon. Oregon has USC at Ohio State. Versus Michigan, and then versus Washington. And agreed, Tim. There's no easy schedule in the Big Ten. The Big Ten, where everybody thinks is weak, has become stronger over the last 2 years. When you talk about, Washington, when you talk about even USC and some of these other teams that are kind of in the middle of the pack, Penn State in that regard. The Big Ten is pretty darn good from top to bottom, in my opinion. But again, subjectivity, all that comes into play. But you look at this Ohio State lineup. They were 12-2 a year ago, 9-1 in the Big Ten. They lost to Indiana in the Big Ten championship game, and then went on to lose to Miami. Ended up number 5 in the rankings. But you can see defense is just like Indiana's defense. 9 points a game, under 220 yards in total defense per game. Nobody ran on them very good or threw on them very good. And they were the first in scoring defense and total defense. So you can see how the Buckeyes figure into all this aspect of things and why people are excited about where they're at with Ohio State. They've got a returning roster that is loaded with talent. They got an experienced quarterback because we know in the game of college football, that's where it starts. If you don't have that guy, it's very hard to be any good offensively speaking. But when you surround him with an offensive line that's going to be good and has a returning and can, run the football with effectiveness, I look to see Ohio State running 3 tight ends in this environment today. That's one of the favorites of Arthur Smith, and they'll have that ability. So you're going to see a little bit different, more so of a pro style offense. Not to say that they won't spread it out, but it's going to be more of a pro dynamic when you look at what Arthur Smith will put into play with what he's done, what Coach Day's done, and they intermix it to formulate a plan this year. So again, very talented team that will be coming to Memorial Stadium on October the 7th. Again, you got nothing but respects with everything with what they've done. And Ohio State is attacking mentality. They're very similar to what Coach Cignetti likes to do with his ball club. They want to attack, and they do it in a fashion that is tough as hell defense and an offense that's got snot bubbles coming out of their nose because they're going to find ways to run the ball about 60% of the time, throw it 40% of the time, and that's going to be a benefit to Josh Hoover from where he was a year ago at TCU. And again, what do these numbers tell us? Tell you as a fan? Tell me as a coach? It tells me you better buckle it up when Ohio State comes to Memorial Stadium on October the 17th and be playing close to really good football to beat this team coming in. It's going to be a tough one. And again, that's right. The Ohio State does go down to Texas. And again, we'll see how Texas mounts up and how Ohio State matches up. And again, that's a game that I don't think they would play now if they could not play it. But again, it's going to be an interesting aspect of it. Let's see what we got here. All righty. Kurt Cignetti can talk big and bold at media day because he plays Rutgers in North Texas. Well, you can have the talk and all that goes with it when you're the Big Ten champions and the national champions. Until you beat the man, you can't be the man. So again, they got a tough schedule when they look at Ohio State and Michigan back to back in both weekends, and have a trip out to Washington as well. So again, this game with Ohio State is going to be very, very, very important to get off on the right foot, because after that, like I said, you head to Michigan and you head to the Big House, where Indiana has not had great overall success there. And I haven't really overly researched Indiana's record there, but it's not great. And it's tough to play in the Big House. And Kyle Whittingham's there now. He's got two coordinators. Jay Hill is really good at what he does, and Jason Beck is a very good offensive coordinator. But again, this is a year that you've got to make sure you get these guys that are in their first year, because after that, it's going to be very hard because they'll be settled into what they do and everything. And Kyle Whittingham's one of those coaches that, with what he believes philosophically, is going to help Bryce Underwood in the sense that they're not going to put pressure on him to be a guy that has to throw the ball 40, 50 times a game. They'll find ways to utilize his speed and athleticism along with a running game that Michigan will want to run, and Kyle Whittingham will want to establish a physical running game offensively and not put defenses in bad positions. So he's a field position guy and everything that goes with it. And I do believe that this game will be a one of those games when you look at it from what Kyle Whittingham brings into it as the head coach there at Michigan. They were 9-4 a year ago, 7-2. Of course, we know the history of what's happened over the last 2 years with the different scandals and things of that nature. But 2 years ago, they won the national championship under Jim Harbaugh. And again, they still got kids on that roster that were a part of that, and they're going to be pretty darn good with it as well. But again, that's just going to be a situation that their talent level is there, and Indiana will have to play very good football, just like they do in that respect. Let's see what Tim has to say here. Penn State's non-conference schedule is just as bad or worse than IU's. Marshall, Temple, and Buffalo. If they don't win on October 11th games, or if they don't win 10 or 11 games, I'm sorry, then something is wrong, because they only play USC they play USC at home, and a road game at Michigan. Yeah, again, that's what I said this morning on Indiana Sports Beat Radio, that getting uh, the coaching situation right there at Penn State, the right hire in Matt Campbell, and the fact that their schedule is set up for him to come in and have success. He brought his quarterback. He brought a lot of guys from Iowa State, no different than what Sig did when he came from James Madison. And you look at the job that he's done at Iowa State. He was phenomenal at Iowa State, because when he went there, it was a dead program, pure and simple dead. And he, came in, took it by storm, got them to be winners, and he never looked back. And nobody thought he was going to leave because he had turned down other opportunities, but Penn State was one of those schools that he couldn't say no to. And I don't think I could either, because he knows that the resources, the fan base, everything is in place to go in there and win and be very successful. And I do think that's what's going to happen for the Nittany Lions this year. But back to Michigan, again, last year, there was just so much going on off the field with this group that it was hard to really understand, how they could keep it together all year. But with Kyle coming in, he's going to bring that toughness. He's going to bring a new identity offensively and defensively. And, a kid like Bryce Underwood, who looks to be going to be the big time starter for them. But again, there is rumblings in that he wasn't great in spring, and there's going to be a pretty good battle to start camp to see where that is at. But, they got Jordan Marshall, John Henry Daly, went in the portal and brought some defensive talent in. And they got depth. Like I said, they've got depth at quarterback as well. When Indiana sits up there in October, you could get all types of different type of weather up in Michigan at that time of year, but they want to run it. They want to play physical, and they're really good in special teams. So Indiana is going to has to be able to contain and limit what Underwood does good, be protective of the football, and find ways to win the special teams. And last year, Indiana was one of the best at winning the special teams battle. It won them a national championship on a punt safe mentality when Kamara got in and got a hand on the punt because he went hard. That was essentially what won them the ball game. So that's going to be a big deal. David has something here, I think. IU hasn't won at Michigan since 1967. There you go. So, there's going to be a lot of that with some of these blue blood programs. When was the last time Indiana? And you're going to see it's been better part, 60s and 70s on some of them. So again, Michigan will definitely test the mantle of the Hoosiers when it comes to that game in Ann Arbor. But Indiana, again, win the turnover battle, something they did great this year. That was one thing that they did great. Red zone touchdowns, another figure for them that was really good. Mendoza did not turn the ball over inside the red zone last year. And as always, you got to find ways to, one, get pressure on the quarterback, but ultimately contain him. And that's where Indiana had some trouble last year, is with really mobile quarterbacks that could get out and run. When they did not contain them, they end up hurting them. So again, there's no recipe that's other than what I just stated there for Indiana to have success in that ball game. So again, that will be the second game in that matchup for Indiana's road schedule. Again, they start with Northwestern, head to Ann Arbor, then Michigan. And look, if they got a chance to go into that Ohio State game undefeated, and I look at it this way, they may be able to lose one game, but if they lose one, they're going to have to run the table. Quite honestly, I just think that's what's going to be, that's what they're going to have to do. So that is a very telling sign what is going to happen there. But we're going to step aside here, take a quick break, learn some things from the Hoosier.com, and of course, Fanatics with the game store for all your needs for game day. Back with more Hoosier Tailgate on the Hoosier.com right after these messages.
Hoosier fans, listen up. If you're serious about the Hoosiers, the Hoosier.com is where you need to be. We're talking insider reporting, film breakdowns, recruiting, and transfer portal coverage you won't get anywhere else. And when you subscribe, it's more than just one site. You also get full access to Rivals, On3, and The Athletic at no extra cost. Right now, you can jump in for just $1. Then it renews annually at the regular rate. $1. Total access. No brainer. Head to thehoosier.com and join today.
Indiana football fans, get your officially licensed Indiana gear today at the Hoosier Tailgate Fanatics storefront. Jerseys, hoodies, hats, collectibles, tailgate gear, and championship apparel, all in one place. Look for the link in the description to the Hoosier Tailgate storefront and gear up today.
Welcome back here to the Hoosier Tailgate on the Hoosier.com. Again, thanks for being along, and do me a favor, hit that subscribe button and like, as well as the notification bell. And if you would happen to go to the Fanatics Game Day store link that I put up here in a short bit and get something from there, we do get a commission for any sales there. So they do have some great items. They do have many different sales going on at any one time. So again, good place to get all your game day gear, as well as some national championship gear as well. But if you go out and get something, we do appreciate your support of the channel. Looking at the Minnesota Golden Gophers and PJ Fleck. And I really appreciated what PJ Fleck said today in his conference, in one of his sessions. And he was asked about SIG and talked about SIG in Indiana, allowing SIG to be SIG because SIG is not, he's different in a lot of people, and PJ's one of them. He's different as well. And PJ's not everybody's cup of tea, the row your boat, all that stuff. But PJ can be PJ, and he's done pretty decent at Minnesota, but he really loved the fact that Cignetti came in, flipped IU, and won the Big Ten and went to won a national championship. For the reason is that PJ believes that can be done at Minnesota. And now there's proof. Now there's validation that in the Big Ten, with the way the game is set up in today's world, with a little bit of level playing field, and you can get yourself pretty darn good out of the portal, you can make a run and find ways to win a Big Ten championship and even a national championship. And PJ Fleck believes that there at Minnesota. Interesting story about PJ Fleck. I recruited PJ Fleck when he was a wide receiver coming out of high school, and did not offer him. And he wasn't too happy about it. Went to Northern Illinois and had a pretty darn good career. And he was what I would call an overachiever in everything that he's done. But I give him a lot of respect in his coaching career because he's done a great job, not only at Western Michigan when he was there, but now at Minnesota. Now, 8-5 last year, had a freshman quarterback, played well at the end of the year. Road record wasn't bad when you look at it. They won a bowl game. I think it was an overtime win there. But last year, it was about an even split on their offense and defensive statistics and such. But, what PJ's done in a time that he's been there, I think they've had like 9 straight bowl wins. They've done well at home where they've been undefeated, I think, at home this past season, if memory serves me correct. But their road record has been one that's not been great overall. And that is one thing that kind of caught my attention, that playing a team like Minnesota after you play Ohio State and Michigan, even though you got a bye in between it, having them at home is much better than having to go to Minneapolis to play them in that late, you talk about weather, you could get a blizzard up there. So that's going to be the thing. And he's got some new guys on offense as the coordinator, Greg Harbaugh Jr. And Danny Collins on defense. Collins was there a year ago. They love to play physical. They love what they call complementary football. You've heard that before from Indiana, playing complementary football. And they do have a veteran program outside of the Drake Lindsey kid at quarterback, who was a young pup last year, but this kid can whip it now. And he's going to be a lot better because he's got that experience under his belt. And he's a big, thick kid, can run it, can throw it. Averaged 23 points a game last year. Their rushing game, just over 100 yards a game. They got to improve there. And defensively, they had 39 sacks. And Anthony Smith, who was picked as the preseason Big Ten Player of the Year as an edge rusher, and a big part of why they had so many sacks a year ago, is a baller, man. That cat can play. And, the tackles for Indiana are going to have, challenges during that, that game because of what he can do. But when you look at this, the offense, they struggled. They really didn't generate enough explosive plays. And again, I said it before, you've got to have those explosive plays as an offense. You got to get at least 3 to 5 a game. And, if you don't get that, it's hard to win because you're giving up field position. And, but excuse me, like I did say, their defense can absolutely be a thorn in not only the offense, but quarterback side during a game, especially if they're getting off to a great start with sacking the quarterback and turnovers. That's the big thing there. But Drake Lindsey is a player to watch, of course, and then Anthony Smith, who I think is a big time player. But again, Indiana at home, whatever happens between those 2 weeks between Ohio State and Michigan will be well in the background, because either way I look at it, any way you come out of those 2 games, whether it's at 500 or you go 2-0 against those 2 teams and you're coming up against Minnesota to go 3-0, it's still going to mean you're going to have to play really good football at that time of year to keep that run going. And Indiana did that a year ago. That was the one thing. And they won in places where it's hard to play. Penn State, they won. They won at Iowa. They won at Oregon, in places that nobody gave them a chance. So the fact that they have to go to Michigan and haven't won since 67, this is the time of year that, again, with Sig and his word of fighting complacency, they do quite well in games when they're there at that type of with that type of team like Michigan. But Minnesota, again, it's very important that they do things that takes care of a team that they on paper will be better than. But at the end of the day, this Minnesota team was always going to be dangerous because they find ways to beat teams they shouldn't beat. And they've done it in the past year. So again, it's going to be a defining stretch of games. When you think about Ohio State, Michigan, and Minnesota at home after that game at Michigan with that bye, and you got 2 out of the 3 at home. Now, we'll get into next week's schedule. There'll be our final part of that. And there's a big game in that one too coming up after they play Minnesota, because they head out to Washington to take on Jed Fish's team, who's definitely going to be a team you're going to want to keep your eye on this year. Not many people are talking about them, but they got the quarterback back who is dynamite, and they've made some big strides as a program. But when I look at those 3 games of stretch, Indiana's got to come out of those 3 games, in my opinion, no worse than 2-1. I think they can be 3-0. And again, that's what they're going to shoot for. But they can't afford to lose 2 of those games and then thinking that they can be in the hunt, because they're going to have to run the table no matter what. But it does affect how they shape up for the Big Ten championship race, college football playoff positioning, rankings, remaining schedule, all that stuff. But if Indiana wants to defend its Big Ten championship, return to the college football playoffs to defend their national championship, these 3 weeks will tell us everything we need to know about the 2026 Hoosiers. Ohio State tests your talent, Michigan will test your toughness, and Minnesota tests your maturity as a football team, because championship teams don't just win the biggest games, they take care of the games they're expected to win after the spotlight fades. And again, Signetti and his coaching staff did a hell of a job last year with just that. They they didn't shy away from going into tough places to play. They had a great game plan. The kids believed in it. They played their tails off, and it didn't matter whether they were playing Oregon or Purdue. They are process oriented in everything they do. So again, want to thank you for being here tonight for the tailgate. Again, I invite you to leave your comments, predictions, maybe for this 3-game stretch, what you may think Indiana should be or will be in a 3-game road test, that 3-game stretch there heading into the final part. Again, get over to thehoosier.com, get your subscription there, as well as all the coverage. Colin McMahon was in Chicago. He did a great job covering the Big Ten today. He's got a lot of material there for you to consume, videos and such. Get over there today, get your subscription. Again, I ask you to hit the subscribe button and smash the like button as well, and get the show out to as many friends as humanly possible, so we can get more bodies in here as we head towards the season. And again, next week episode, we'll finish up this 4-part series with the final stretch of games of the 2026 season. And then we'll be well into camp, and we'll be switching probably to 2 times a week towards the end of camp with our schedule. But after this, we will get into breaking down the position groups for both offense, defense, as we head into this 2026 season. And I saw it earlier, and Sig did it today. There have been some possible changes at the O-line position. So we'll have to wait and see it with all of that when we get ready to rock and roll, when we get into the player position breakdowns, and then try to get the boys back to have a round table again and talk about this 2026 Hoosier team and where we think they will end up at the end of the year. Appreciate you being here tonight. Tune in tomorrow 8:45 if you want to watch on YouTube for Indiana Sports Beat Radio. I'll be with Jim tomorrow on Friday, Alec Lassie, Zach Osterman, as well as Bill Bender from the Sporting News. We'll have a lot to talk about tomorrow, so join us there as well, and set your calendar for next Thursday night at 7:30 for more Hoosier Tailgate. I'm the coach, Shannon Griffith. We appreciate you being with us here tonight, and thank you from thehoosier.com and Hoosier Tailgate. Good night, everybody.